Like many of you, I have been nervous about this show. Will history unfortunately repeat itself? We're still not over that M. Night movie. Whew, it was bad. Also, one has to wonder, what's the point? Especially with the original animated series still very much available. In fact, to prepare for covering this show, I just rewatched all of book one so it would be fresh in my mind. I'm a hardcore Avatar fan. I've seen all 3 books, and then also, of course, The Legend of Korra show. I even read some of the comics until I realized that they were not as good. So I stopped reading them. I much prefer this live-action show to the comics that they released. But my point is, the original animated show is available right now on Paramount Plus, and I had a fantastic time rewatching it just a few weeks ago. What a show! But that show came out almost 20 years ago. Isn't that incredible? Almost 20 years ago is when Avatar first debuted. And hey, maybe this is a chance to get new fans into the franchise. You gotta keep the fandom going. As the original creators, by the way, are getting ready to tell new stories in animation. How exciting is that? This show is made, the live action version is made in partnership with Nickelodeon. But yes, the OG creators did drop out of this live action show early on, and they were pretty vocal about it. But it seems maybe all is forgiven, because apparently they deleted, or one of them deleted the post where they said, "We quit." And one of them showed up at the premiere, or at least was photographed with the showrunner behind this live action version. And I gotta say, maybe they watched the finished product, because honestly, it's fantastic. I don't know who could have a problem with it. And in fact, I think it could only do good things for the brand. If I were them, I would be interested to know what their original issues were and if they were maybe resolved, because I don't see any problems. Maybe they don't like how dark it got, but I think that's cool. I'll be curious to see how you feel. It's dark. The Fire Nation, they killed a lot of people on camera. I was like, whoo. But really, I honestly thought of that while I was watching my screeners. I was like, what could their issue have been? Because this is fantastic. I think the live-action Avatar series perfectly captures the spirit of the animated series and is really just a phenomenal retelling. It reminded me just a bit, because I think it's better, of how Disney adapts their animated classics to live action. Although I like some of those adaptations. I think some of them are good. But this is even better because they have more time. They have essentially a little under 8 hours, so they can do a lot more than a 2-hour live-action Disney movie can do. But I would describe Avatar The Last Airbender live action as kind of a cross between Aladdin, which I thought was a very good adaptation, meets Shang-Chi from the MCU. And on that note, I think it's pretty cool, considering how influential martial arts films and shows are for teenagers and adults for so long now. But I think it's great that they now have an all-ages piece of martial arts content that can get people into martial arts even earlier in their lives. How cool is that, right? A lot of the things that you see in martial arts filmmaking, which actually is not as much in the animated series, is in the live action series. A lot of talking about the philosophy, that is so that really in some ways goes hand in hand with the physical parts of the fighting aspects of martial arts. And I thought that was so nice to see in this type of all-ages entertainment. Also, you know what else this is? It's an all-ages war movie. I didn't expect that. They talk a lot more about war and its effects in the live-action version. What it takes, what it's like for children to grow up in war, and as they become teenagers, having to join that war, which sadly throughout history, teenagers very often have had to do. So I thought that was a really nice new dynamic as well that I didn't expect. I was like, wow. And again, this doesn't mean that older viewers can't enjoy this show, because as I said, it gets surprisingly dark and deals with very complex issues. I found it very entertaining as an adult viewer. The big main trailer scared me. I was like, this is for the kids. But I think that while all ages, it is still, I would describe it as a PG-13 show. So kids can enjoy it with supervision. And I think that even adults can enjoy it very, very much. I really, really liked it. Bottom line, before we get into a little bit more of the details, I just want to say I had as good a time watching this live action show as I did recently rewatching the animated series. I had such a good time, and I really do hope that Netflix and Nickelodeon can rise above all the drama that has somehow found it's 2024. Of course there's drama. But I hope that this show can ultimately rise above that, because I would love to get a live action adaptation of books 2 and 3. Because I'd have to say, Albert Kim, who is behind the live action show primarily, he's earned my trust as an Avatar fan. And at least one of the OG creators likes him. All right, now this is the non-spoiler review. So I'm going to just cover the basics and try to address what your potential concerns might be. Bending. As wonky as it might have looked in the trailers, in the show, it looks incredible. It looks so good. Like just shy of movie quality. And in some sequences, I don't think a movie could do any better. I was really impressed. And there is a ton of bending, by the way. So much bending! They're bending all over the place from episode 1. And every episode features multiple uses of bending and like very high levels of bending. I loved every second of it as a fan of bending. I'm still Team Earthbender, but some of those other all the bendings looked great. Aang is a great airbender. That is, of course, obvious for the character, but depicted quite well on this show. It looks great. Looks so good. And I was also so happy and impressed to see that Katara, just like the animated series, becomes a very good waterbender. She has this move with discs. Let's just say it involves discs. And I was like, that's so good. I love it so much. She did it twice, thankfully. I loved it. A lot of people were like, teach me how to do that. And I was like, not surprised that a line is forming, Katara. Not surprised. You're a boss. And then Aang, when he finally enters the Avatar state in battle, that looked really, really good. It looked way better than I thought it would. I was like, that looks so good. That looks so great. And it made me feel bad that Avatar has not really gotten the glow up that some other IPs have over the years, particularly because Hollywood, of course, is in its nostalgia craze. I'm like, what about this property? So to see it finally back to front and center and elevated in a way that only live action and Netflix can do is very exciting for me, and I hope this works out. VFX. Even beyond the bending, I think the VFX here are quite good. Momo and Appa, they both look great. There's even some scenes where people are holding Momo, and I was like, you look like you're actually holding him. Momo doesn't show up a lot because he's expensive. I'm glad they spent more of the money on the bending than on Momo and Appa. They're there enough, and they look great. The different nations, Omashu and the Northern Water Tribe, they look so good. And so often, locations here look like they leapt right out of the animated series. You're like, that's it. That's the place. For instance, Roku's temple, it was perfect. I immediately was like, it was like deja vu because I've already been there. And here I was there again. And the big battle at the end between the Fire Nation and the Northern Water Tribe, movie level. It was so good. When I was watching, I was actually like, this looks amazing. Way better than I ever would have expected it to. And that they have such a cool, maybe it'll be, it reminds me a little bit of some of the battle sequences in the Filoniverse, right? You're like, this really is surprisingly well thought out, and it goes into a lot of detail for a battle sequence in like what's could be written off as all ages entertainment. But the fact that it doesn't do that, I think, is what makes it have such broad appeal. Hopefully. Production design, also very impressive. Sometimes the sets seem small, but they made up for that with the fact that they were so ornate and detailed. And they really went all out. And I was surprised how many practical sets they built. I was like, wow, you actually built the inside of the fire temple for Roku's temple. They built the inside of that, multiple rooms, and it looked good. Like, I was surprised. I was really happy that they did that. And also the four groups, right? So you've got the Fire Nation, the Earth Kingdom, the Air Nomads, and the Water Tribe. And all of them are wonderfully distinct and really brought to life very well. And with each group, by the way, the focus of 2 episodes. You can tell by the intro, and they kind of like are focusing on that corner of the Avatar world during those episodes. I also feel that using different ethnicities within the larger group of Asia was a really wonderful choice. So the Fire Nation is East Asia, the Earth Kingdom is South Asia, the Air Nomads are Southeast Asia, and the Water Tribe is Native Americans. And it just felt so inclusive. And it just felt like it was so cool to see like all of Asia coming together to tell this story. I really liked it. I thought it was great. And it's worth noting that a lot of the behind the camera talent, including the writers and directors, are also of Asian descent. It really did feel very much like, great martial arts films and shows, but even more so because it had like this comic booky, high fantasy Hollywood feel to it too. I really liked it. All right, changes to the original. Yes, there are changes. There are a lot of changes. But my advice to you would be to embrace it because I think they're fantastic. I think, at first it's weird. You're like, whoa, what are we doing? Like right out of the gate, they hit you with big changes. And you're like, what? Do you want a shot-for-shot retelling? I mean, that would be so boring. And I think this is infinitely more interesting, especially since it's done with love and respect. And I think actually, to some degree, I wouldn't say improves the material, but ages it up so that it has broader appeal. Basically, Albert Kim and his writers have condensed 20 half-hour episodes into 8 45 to 55-minute episodes. You will be amazed at how many things they're able to include here by, I think, combining some of the storylines. And they do so in a way that I feel makes perfect sense. And again, ages up the material by making it come across and be, I think, more complex and layered. They've really taken an animated series for kids and, as I said, made it a PG-13 live-action show or almost an 8-hour movie that's meant to appeal to adults as well as kids. So I think that's great. They've also added, get ready for this, new scenes! I know, how dare they? But they're fantastic. I love them, particularly for Aang, Zuko, and Uncle Iroh. I loved those scenes. Oh, they were great, giving additional depth and nuance and the feels to their origin stories. Oh, I loved it. These changes also make the show fun for fans of the animated series because it's not a shot-for-shot remake, and there are new things for us to discover and to think about. So that it kept me engaged, and I mean, it wasn't just like, okay, you did that exactly the same, you did that exactly the same. I was like, oh wow, I love that. What a great idea. And I love that change, or I love that addition. I thought it was fantastic. As for Sokka no longer having a bad attitude about girls, don't worry about it. The waterbending master in the north is still a total jerk, and the issue of misogyny is addressed. I think effectively, concisely, and I think powerfully. I think it was a good moment. They handled it, I think, just right. Sokka, by the way, is in fact quite the ladies' man. We all know that about him, but I was surprised how many smooches he got on his journey. I think it also seemed like more because it was just within 8 episodes. I was like, wow, that Sokka really gets around. And yes, Azula has been moved up to book 1, and she's a full supporting character. And all I'll say, because this is a non-spoiler review, but wink, wink, yes, you will see her in her full glory. Now, also, the show is darker and more complex. As I said, they sure kill a lot of people on this show, particularly the Fire Nation. And they show a lot of, it's like they keep it PG-13, but they go there. I mean, the Fire Nation is evil with a capital E. And you feel it. Many times I was moved to tears while watching this live action show. I love the animated show, but it never made me cry. End of episode 1, I was crying. I was like, what the heck is this? This is new, but I think it was really well done. So yes, the stakes, they feel much higher here. They were very high in the animated series, but you really feel it here. Also, I think this version of Avatar is full of even more great life lessons than the animated series that I think would benefit not only younger viewers, but even older viewers. Some of these lessons I think are applicable to everyone. The show still has a lot of fun, of course, but it also gets much more serious, which I liked. I liked that. And one of the standouts is King Bumi's game with Aang. I don't want to spoil it again, but let's just say the conversation, the give and take that they have there, caught me off guard. I was surprised by how adult it was and how good it was. I was like, wow, I love this. All right, let's talk cast in order of my favorites. That's right, I'm going there. Gordon Cormier as Aang. He is Aang. Sure, he's got a touch of a precocious child actor about him, but I mean, come on. I mean, he's a precocious child actor, and because of that, he's able to handle not only the comedic scenes, but the dramatic scenes extremely well. Plus, he can do the martial arts moves. He looks great. To me, he almost instantly became Aang. By the end of the first episode, I was like, that's Aang. He looks great. I love his eyebrows and the tattoos. I mean, he just comes together just so great. I mean, the performance is great, but physically, I mean, he also just really is perfect. Dallas Liu as Prince Zuko. Every hero needs a good villain, or in this case, an anti-hero pal, as Zuko, of course, eventually becomes. And you see shades of that here already. At first, I didn't care for Lu's performance, as he just seemed to scream a lot. I was like, I don't know about this. But as we learned more about Zuko as the season progressed, so much more, a lot of new scenes for Zuko, he became infinitely more interesting. And by the end of the 8 episodes, I also felt that he had become Zuko. So it took a little longer, but we got there. Paul Sun-hyung as Uncle Iroh. I love this guy. Now I see why so many of you love him. You know, I forget, Kim's Convenience. He comes from that sitcom where also Simu Liu came from, by the way. And of course, he's had a couple of scenes in The Mandalorian, but, you know, he didn't really get a chance to strut his stuff. He does here, boy. I mean, a lot less funny than the animated version, who was like strictly comedic relief, but so much more heart. I'm so impressed with what they've done with this character. He has become crucial to this story. I love him. Ken Leung as Commander Zhao. Here's your villain. And you know, Leung has been around for a very long time, all the way back to X-Men 3. But I've never seen him this good. He really brought it. He and Sun-hyung do a lot to balance out this show. And even though it has a lot of kids in it, and in some ways is all ages, they do a lot to make it an adult show as well with their performances. Daniel Dae Kim also is excellent as Fire Lord Ozai, because I think he also had a great adult performance. Truly an evil dude, and also quite regal. I love the way he carried himself. I was like, that's a Fire King, all right, you know, a Fire Lord. That he's so unapologetically mean to kids is crazy. But of course, perfect for the character in the show. He's so mean to kids. Wow. There's no child services in the Fire Nation. All right, Kiawentio as Katara and Ian Owsley as Sokka. Now, don't be worried that Katara and Sokka are lower down on my favorites list, because they did a good job, but the reason they're lower down is that they don't have as many dramatic scenes as these other characters have. And also, they have some, which are very good. And also because I think these actors are a scooch less experienced than the cast above them. But they do a great job balancing out Aang, and they both come across as the kind and brave characters that they are. I love how powerful, again, that Katara becomes as a waterbender. That was phenomenal. And I think that Sokka learns a lot of important lessons along the way that I don't want to ruin, but I thought they were great. He is such a great character, particularly for kids. I loved some of the stuff that he learned. Now, he still cracks a lot of jokes, and he loves food, and I think that the purpose of taking away some of his misogyny, which I know that some of you were upset about it, but to me, it's turned him into a really strong male character who isn't a bender. And I think that's important to the show. He's just a really great guy, and I think that's really refreshing and nice to see. I loved him. Elizabeth Yu as Princess Azula. I'm afraid to admit, you guys were right about her. Not great casting choice. But she does not hurt the show. She doesn't pull the show down, but she's not as great as she should be. I'm not even sure why they moved her into book 1, to be honest with you. Maybe to show what Zuko could have become, right? Maybe? I can't discuss it too much without spoilers, but I will say that I love that her 2 friends are here as well, and that's pretty awesome, particularly if you know what's coming up. There are tons of other fan favorite characters brought to life here quite well, plus some surprise characters that they added that I can't wait for you to see and for us to talk about in the spoiler review. That was such a great treat. And yes, the Cabbages guy is even there. I thought that was good. It's nice to see known talent like George Takei, Danny Pudi, Amber Midthunder, and Utkarsh Ambudkar in this show. If this show does well enough, it would be wonderful to see more well-known Asian talent join in. But what's really great about this show, in addition to all the other stuff, but another great aspect is that it shines the spotlight on a lot of unknown Asian talent that doesn't get the same number of opportunities in Hollywood as other talent does. So it's so great to see them get a chance to show what they can do here. Particularly Maria Zhang as Suki, Sebastian Amoruso as Jet, Arden Cho as June, Lucien River Chauhan as Teo. He was great. I particularly liked him a lot. He has got a great vibe. And Roy Iskander as Lieutenant G. Liked him a lot. He really stood out. So yes, I feel this live action adaptation is a great success, and I hope it finds great success. I'm nervous. I hope it does. I hope it can rise above all the drama. And I hope it means much more Avatar storytelling to come, both live action and animated. In fact, this adaptation turned out so well that I think that proves what a great IP this really is. I think that the live action movie back in the day stopped this IP dead in its tracks, which is a real shame. Also, it was ahead of the curve in terms of LGBT representation. It was one of the first properties to really do that and to do it so well. But I hope that now it can rally and be revived, because I think this is a great time for it. And I hope that Hollywood finally realizes how strong this IP is. And I really hope that this is just the start, as I said, of many more great things for Avatar to come. So please watch it. All right, so share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.